There, Dr. Sam here. I'm going to talk a little bit about progesterone and what it means, because there's been a few comments about people liking or hating the different types of progestogens. So I thought I'd clarify what it is and why it's a really individual experience. When someone has a strong like or dislike to a type of progestogen, then how, to me as a doctor who does lots of hormone medicine, it tells me quite a lot. In summary, progesterone is the hormone released by the body after ovulation. It is, for most people, a calming hormone. It crosses into the brain and helps prepare the body for pregnancy with respect to the uterus, but also systemically. So it affects the musculoskeletal system in the brain and metabolism as well. So natural progesterone is a really unstable molecule, and it's had to be modified in the laboratory because it's needed to protect the lining of the womb as well. Because if you have just estrogen, then there are high rates of endometrial cancer over years. And for years and years, they couldn't make progesterone. So the scientists made synthetic progestins, so a type of progestins, which were really good at stopping menstrual bleeding and thinning the lining of the uterus, the womb, to make periods lighter, to prevent pregnancy if the lining is thin, and also it changes the cervical mucus, so sperm don't like it, but it also changes the hormones in the body. And the different progestins work in different ways. So all synthetic progestins attach to receptors, and there are different types of receptors around the body. Some progestins attract to more than others. And some of these are the more androgenic ones, so the testosterone ones, and some are in more concentrated areas of the breast and the heart. And so this is why we get a whole range of tolerances. It makes sense, right? Different people's bodies respond in different ways. And so in principle, these aren't as nice for the brain. People can find that sleep's improved with progesterone, which is now utrogestan, micronized progesterone, whereas the progestins are thought to be not so nice on the mental health. However, for some people, progesterone goes into the brain and it can cause insomnia. Yes, insomnia, for most people it causes sleep, but for some people it makes you have insomnia, not be able to sleep. Therefore, a progestin, a synthetic one, which doesn't for some people cross into the brain, can be an absolute life changer, and it can attack the lining of the womb. Some of the different types of progestins, the traditional ones are norethisterone, which is in a tiny dose in the mini pill, but it has quite a narrow window of action of the mini pill, which is why you have to take it at the same time every day. So that's where desogestrel, a contraceptive pill, Cerazette, now funded, has a 12-hour window. So it's a bit more effective if you're not so good at taking it every day. And I find that desogestrel is also nicer for those who are hormone sensitive. So it's a really good option to try if you've got like neurodivergence or ADHD and in endometriosis, because it helps settle ovulation. So it's good for PMDD for some people as well, so it stops the ups and the downs. However, for some people, it still makes them feel a bit rubbish. Cerazette has higher rates of causing no periods compared to the mini pill, norethisterone. Then there's some other progestins called medroxyprogesterone, so that's in Provera, a common form of hormone replacement therapy. And Provera medroxyprogesterone is thought to be a bit nicer cardiovascularly and breast health wise compared to norethisterone, because it doesn't bind to the breast tissue as much. And then you've also got nomegestrel, which is a newer, more mood neutral and nicer cardiovascular health and breast health wise, progestin inzoli. And then you've got progesterone, which is in Slinda that I talked about yesterday, and progesterone, which is in lower doses as part of the contraceptive pills Yaz and Yasmin, and also as part of the hormone replacement therapy pill, not available in New Zealand, called Angelique, at half of the dose of Slinda. And then you've got levonorgestrel. So levonorgestrel is another progestin, and that's the progestogen in the Mirena and in the J. So in the Mirena, it releases, to start with, 20 micrograms per day, predominantly locally, but it makes sense at a higher level that you can have a systemic impact. And over the first 3 months, generally that lowers. Rates of depression, side effects do improve. And then there's the JDES, and that's almost half the dose of the Mirena. So the JDES can stay in for 3 years, and the Mirena for 8 years now for contraception. I find that different people tolerate different forms of contraception and different types of progestogen. A lot of people, if you tolerate Cerazette well, it's thought that's a good heads up and you'll tolerate the Mirena. However, I have people that have had one and haven't tolerated the other one well. Also, when you start a new kind of medication and you get side effects, I'm always thinking, is it the change of the hormone, or is it the fact that it's the hormone in general that you don't like? When we talk about the change, we talk about the actual medication building up in your body, but also what is it doing to your natural hormones as well. So there's lots and lots of different options, and I think actually what we need to do in the hormone space is listen to each other, validate each other's experiences, actually not question it as well. I haven't really talked about my personal hormone journey over the last 10, but I can definitely say that through my own experiences, realizing some things later than I should have done, but better late than never, that every experience is really individual. And hopefully if you have a little bit of a framework, can work through the different kinds. And they generally say for 3 months for it to settle down. But to be honest, if you feel absolutely awful, you've not tolerated every other option, depending on the symptoms, I'm like, do we need to push for 3 months? Do you need to be suicidal for 3 months? Do you need to put on 20 kilos? I know the data says one thing, but I think we've got to look a little bit at experience as well. So typically the Mirena the data says it doesn't commonly cause depression, 5% of people, but I really think probably it does more. But I'm also seeing a biased population, individuals who have had challenges with their hormones over the years. So hopefully that was helpful. In summary, I think a really, really important thing is understanding that progestogen is the umbrella term for progestins and progesterone. Progesterone is more body identical, much like our natural progesterone. For most people, it's better tolerated and it is safer. However, for some, it's an absolute disaster and they are better off with the progestins, the synthetic ones, and it's worthwhile working your way through them. And for some people, all of them just don't work. And then when it doesn't work, is it because of the absolute, or is it because of the build-up or the impact on your hormones? More information on my website and some resources that I've put together. So hopefully that's helpful, and have a lovely New Year's Day. Ka kite.